Happy New Year's Eve! Good day, YouTubers, and thank you for tuning in to today's very different video on YouTube. And it's one of these videos I could probably say, well, it's one of these ones that I would probably say it's, now you see it and now you don't. Well, obviously, we are going towards the new arrival of 2026. We've only got about 3.5 hours to go to before we start to open up the crack of dawn, that being 2026. And I also want to put up some announcements here. Yes, I will still be making videos in 6, but there's also another catch. From 2026, there's actually a completely different upload difference going on here. After making a specific video during, let's just say, the transition from December to January, and it actually happens a lot. Okay, so most importantly wise, that, hey, I'm going to upload whatever New Year's Eve / New Year's Day fireworks display, video, reaction type thing that I do on my YouTube channel. What I often tend to do is I often upload them very instantly after making them. Okay, so yes, we are straightforward in Birmingham. In fact, I'm living in Birmingham, so why the hell would I even straightforward say any more? Okay, well, let's not be out of context. So, without this rhetoric along the way here, we've got a word of warning, and it's probably because, well, hey, I'm not really bluffing, Sorry, I can't really speak that properly, eh? But anyways, it is a cold and frigid night. And as I could really say, hey, it was freezing early on today. Well, yes, it was, even though freaking sunny. Or should I just say frippin' sunny without even getting into the context of using profanity words and other whatnot. But anyways, yes, yellow warnings of snow and ice, obviously, in the Midlands, but also many other parts in the UK. And yes, it's a freezing cold, sort of, oh my god, look at that. We've got a moment of just how freezing cold it is across parts of the UK. But yes, it really varies. So it is New Year's Eve, but then, of course, let's tackle the day after New Year's Eve, which is, of course, New Year's Day. It sort of, look at that. The winds start to pick up, which is very much strange. Again, one thing to let you know, guys, it's very, very different. And I mean, why is it so cold? So, let me just straightforward bring in one interesting explanation here of why it's been very, very cold. Okay, if you look at the pressure chart, notice that there's low pressure that's actually sinking all down its way towards the UK. It's coming all the way from Scandinavia, Iceland, I think, not that much of Greenland. I'm pretty sure it's most likely Iceland and Scandinavia, so that's where it is. And if I look at the air mass types, which comes from the Arctic, it's the sort of air mass that brings in wet, cold air, which actually brings in snow during winter. And if I look at the map chart, you can actually explain or start to see why within your head. Oh my goodness me, look at that. Look at the temperatures across. Okay, so here is the short forecast. And right now, Scandinavia is facing a big, oh, look at this barrage of snow. I can't put up words properly, eh? But yes, we've got a lot of temperature contrast anomalies. And the figures are going to be straightforward, very different, because it really varies within whatever city you're in. What really is strange, I don't know why Manchester and Edinburgh are significantly milder than, let's just say, Birmingham and London. Why are these two cities a lot more milder than, let's just say, these ones here, even though they're actually a lot more chillier, actually. They're actually chilly, right? So, this cold bubble that we're in, and I mean, it really is freezing cold outside. Yeah. How much can I really explain to you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, without being totally out of context? So yes, we've got this polar blast or Arctic blast that's been barraging across parts of Scandinavia. I mean, look at Oslo, which is technically like, there's a diagonal line between Edinburgh and Oslo. Kind of interesting, as a bit of a coincidence, isn't it? So Edinburgh, it's obviously let's just say, it's not as cold as Oslo, but it is freezing cold. It's about 5 degrees Celsius. It is freezing. Slightly chillier, I think, than it is with Oslo, but Oslo is a complete freezer. But if you look at Oslo, look at the other countries that also became relatively cold. Look at Murmansk, an area that is situated between the Norwegian, Finnish, and Russian border. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, look at Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. That's very cold, and it's probably because look how very inland this is. There's no sea. In fact, there's no presence of, an ocean or a sea, and if there was, it would have made the place a little bit warmer. Maybe I might be totally wrong. Maybe this is what I'm explaining to you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you're watching this video, do please hit subscribe. But I want to straightforward delve in even more about why this cold snap has decided to basically land and ravage through our New Year's Eve / New Year's Day plans, which will be all the way from 2025 to the next great year, which is of course 2026. Also 2025 sucks because of 6-7. It is freaking massive. Right, I've actually got the screen zoomed in, and as you can see, Birmingham and London are about 1 degree Celsius. Hard to explain, but I'm pretty sure it's all to do with the fact that they are very much inland. And also, yeah, it also sort of dictates where the wind is coming from. So, I don't know why. It is strange to see why Birmingham... I think usually the much more inland areas like Birmingham and possibly London, although London is so close to the coast because it's got a very famous meandering river called the Thames, which snakes all its way through towards the estuary, which is obviously a tad mild. And of course, even then, if you head to the coast at this time, it's not even the case. Hey, I mean, look at that. If you go to Cornwall, it's not even that mild. Unless, of course, if you wake up during the daytime, it is mild, but then it just goes chilly. Chilly, chilly, chilly. Not a good sign. Okay, so yes, we've got this very weird anomaly contrast of temperatures. 5 for Edinburgh, 3 for Belfast, -2 for Oslo. But then these two here are a complete mistake. Birmingham and London are straightforward bone chilling. Why is that? We don't know, but we all know of what really has caused this cold snap to really happen is this Arctic air mass. I don't think it's the polar maritime air mass that brings in cold, showery weather. It has to be the Arctic maritime air mass. And I'm pretty sure the question is, do you really think that this is going to be some sort of, well, I can't really tell. Okay, let's take a look at the pressure chart. Of course, yes, when I clicked on observations, it actually shows New Year's Eve and not Thursday. That's one mistake I've made. So, yes, going by the looks of this weather forecast, I don't like it when it does that. Okay, so let's go to pressure. So, what we do know is that we've got a... Okay, look at the air mass here, without being out of context here. I don't want to straightforward sound like I've got nothing else to say here, other than the fact it's freezing cold outside because we've got this stubborn piece of air mass, which is, of course, the Arctic air mass. As you can see, it just basically encircles all its way from Scandinavia all the way down towards, the UK, parts of France. What's interesting is, if I go up towards the weather forecast, noticing how the UK is straightforward sitting. Okay, so look at the rest of other parts of Europe. So, look how mild the Mediterranean is. You notice how mild Italy, Spain, and Portugal are. And if I straightforward swivel around, you can see how cold Paris is, but notice how mild Spain, Portugal, and Italy are. It is actually very interesting to see why. Now, I highly suspect that this cold air is still sinking down. Okay, so this cold snap is straightforward significantly sinking down. It really is. Okay, so as we go through, look how absolutely cold this is. Now, mind you, if we had one that was very similar to this one, but if we had a taste, let's just say what really happened back in 1981, 1978 to 1979, which was home to the Winter of Discontent. 1963 was also another cold winter. It was bone chilling and it was absolutely frigid like hell, obviously. 2009 2010, 2011, and also 2013 and 2018. 2021, we had a lot of snow back in 2021, but we were all completely safe. And was, what really caused that? It was COVID. Okay, so yeah, this persistent blocking, well, I wouldn't say it's a blocking air mass, but it is blocking the way for our milder and very tepid looking, which is what we're all familiar with. Right, so yes, we've got wind warnings for northeastern parts of Scotland and the Shetland Islands. Okay, is this the Hebrides? I'm not really sure. Maybe the Hebrides is on the west. Might be totally wrong here. So there's been a lot of strong wind alerts about this. And speaking of alerts, we've got another warning, which really relates to snow and ice on New Year's Day. But if we go out towards the 2nd of January, you can start to see how catastrophic this becomes. Well, I wouldn't say catastrophic, but this becomes pretty alarming. So this brooding weather event warning thing that we're getting at the moment here is a complete reminder of why it's being so cold. Well, of course, it is freezing cold because, yes, we are not only stuck in winter, but also in the fact that, yes, it is freaking hot in Australia, of course, because it's summertime. And also, let's not forget that, yes, we've just gone past through the equinox. Sorry, the vernal. No, wait, it's not the vernal equinox. What was I thinking? Aha! The winter solstice, for crying out loud! Why can't I do astronomics oh so well? What a dumb person. Without even saying the A word that ends with 2 S's. Okay, let's straddle on and see what we have. Well, let's continue on, actually. So even though it's cold, we've got bountiful amounts of sunshine, but yet again, the sun is very much tilted away from us because we're done with summer. Right? That's very simple. Yes, we've gone through autumn, we've gone through, spring and summer, but winter is there to stay up until, March or April and May. Well, I would probably say, hey, yes, spring does become winter, right? Even occasionally June and July. I heard so many people saying, hey, there was, people were saying to me, hey, it was snowing in July of 2024 up in the Highlands. And I mean, I'm not making this one up, guys, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. And I mean, it's not that unusual to get snow up in the Highlands because we had some very below than average temperatures back in July of 2024. And also the summer of 2019. Although the summer was hot, early June, I'd say early to mid-June was a complete abomination because it was freezing cold. Although I would probably say, hey, why am I thinking, am I like a Norwegian freak who doesn't have a Norwegian accent? But then, hey, I'm just like this half Norwegian Australian person who's straightforward speaking right in front of camera. Don't worry, I'm not Norwegian. I'm actually just a British, Chinese, Australian, Malaysian hybrid. I'm an amalgamation. Right, what the hell am I talking about? Okay, so, yes, without being a complete dumb A-R-S-E, without swearing, okay, I don't want to sound out of context here, but yes, look at the bountiful amount of days. We're getting lots and lots of cold but sunny days. So I'm probably guessing that if I swirl around the pressure chart, yes, we've got this Arctic air mass. Yes, there's low pressure hitting us somehow. But what I don't realise is that we've got high pressure that has been building right over across Central and Eastern Europe. So if that's the case, hey, guess what? It might be an easterly wind. It's very hard to tell during wintertime because of the way on how the jet stream moves. Usually the jet stream always... Okay, I know it's a very prominent feature during summertime, but looking back at it during winter, that is very, very tricky to really get into because the jet stream, if I look at the map, it's very, very totally different. So it's a very messy picture. So yes, okay, during summertime, usually the jet stream faces northwards, but then during wintertime, the jet stream always directly hits south. So this is the main pattern that we're seeing here. It always hits south, but then we don't have any bits of low pressure coming in from the Atlantic. Obviously, there is another thing I also want to say here. Atlantic low pressure systems often tend to be associated with much more milder weather because it's often formed by the ocean itself. Is it the Gulf Stream? I'm pretty sure it's the Gulf Stream, which obviously circulates from the Gulf of Mexico and then sends our way up to the UK, which is where we get our rain from, isn't it? Okay, so what is this bubble of low pressure systems going on here? It is kind of tricky somehow. I don't know how this actually works somehow with low pressure systems and whatnot, because I'm pretty sure with frontal systems it's very simple to know, but with showers they are very difficult to predict, especially during the warmer months. Although I could probably say otherwise. Yeah, you know what? We've already seen so many extreme bits of weather, of course. Okay, so the Arctic maritime air mass that we're getting at the moment, it's just wet, cold air that brings snow in wintertime, but that is actually not the case. I'm actually sort of thinking, why aren't we getting any snow? Well, that's very, very weird. Okay, if you look at this, yes, it is trying to snow, but it's actually sleeting. But again, notice of how dry it is. Why is it so dry? It's actually really confusing. What really confuses me is just how very insignificantly inaccurate computer models often show. And often when it comes into weather forecasting, and it's not just winter, but all year round, of course, it gets hyper confusing because you also have to deal with other weather patterns that are also around the world. Like, yes, here in New York City, in America, there's a big barrage of snow, right? A big bomb of snow right here. Which is, it's very tricky because there's just so many other weather patterns that you have to really work hard and find your way through of what's causing this cold snap, for example, in the UK, and also this cold snap in America. Now, there is something I could really theorize. Is this something to do with the southern stratospheric warming, or is it something that I haven't been fully trained of? Oh well, let's go ahead and take a look at the BBC weather forecast right at the menu. In fact, there's two of them right here, and there's also another BBC report which talks about the snow and ice warnings for 2026. Nice picture of a horse or a pony. Lovely. I might as well have a look at that, eh? Yeah, there's no snow during New Year's Eve / New Year's Day, which is actually quite impressive, I suppose, hey? And what's really strange is that although we had lower temperatures during autumn time, mind you, the winter that we're having, I don't think it's that cold. I think specifically we already had a lot of mild weather. Of course, yes, let's just say if you compared 2025 versus 2024, which one would you say is the much more warmer year? Personally, I would say 2025 because not only we had a massive drought during the summer and we had a lot of hot weather, but what was very interesting at the very start of 2025 was that we had a cold plunge of air that sent us a lot of snow. And that was, prohibiting me to go outside at that time of the year. Okay, so that really shows you of how dire mid and or late winter is. Okay, let's play the video and let me just shut the hell up. Here we go.
Hello there, a cold wind all the way from the Arctic is heading our way over the next few days. Having said that, tonight's not going to be as cold as last night. That's because pressure is falling and this low pressure in this weather front is bringing some windier, cloudier and wetter weather southwards across the northern half of the UK overnight, with the rain pushing into northern England and Wales. Following on from that, the showers in northern Scotland do begin to turn wintry as we get the first signs of that Arctic air arriving, but those temperatures are not as low as they were last night. We'll start with a bit of rain to clear away from southern areas on New Year's Day. Following on from that, though, there will be some sunshine, but a stream of showers come in as well. These are generally of rain, except in the northern half of Scotland, where we've got some more sleet and snow. And here, it's going to be particularly windy. Mind you, the winds will be stronger everywhere on New Year's Day, so that will certainly take the edge off the temperatures. And after dark, the showers in Northern Ireland could turn wintry, risk of some snow and ice. And just for a short while, be a bit of snow falling across Wales, heading into the Midlands and southern England. That will then clear away and leave some icy conditions for Friday morning, and leave us still with the winds coming all the way from the Arctic, bringing in some sunshine, but also some more snow showers. And northern parts of Scotland are directly in the firing line from Thursday through to Sunday. Frequent heavy snow showers, and that is likely to bring some continued travel disruption.
Indeed it will be. But hey, let's take a look at the weather for the week ahead and see how Darren Bet is forecasting us
Tuesday
again.
night was the coldest.
Okay, I was meant to say it's forecasting again. Yeah, I accidentally pressed play by accident. Okay, let's go.
Hello there. Tuesday night was the coldest night of the winter so far. It looks like it's going to stay cold for the foreseeable future because we're going to draw down some cold Arctic winds, which will bring the risk of some snow and ice over the next few days. Instead of high pressure that's kept it dry, that's getting pushed towards the west of the UK, lowering pressure is moving down from the north, and following that we get those northerly winds bringing that colder air down from the Arctic. There is a weather front bringing a little rain across these southern areas early on New Year's Day. It'll be followed by some sunshine, a stream of showers. Most of those will be of rain, but in Scotland some sleet and snow will continue to fall on New Year's Day, driven on by some strong and really cold winds blowing in here further south. Temperatures at the moment 6 or 7 degrees. But after dark, we could well see some sleet and snow showers across Northern Ireland, leading to some icy conditions. And for a while overnight, just for a few hours, there could be some snow falling across Wales, maybe the Midlands, southern England, give a couple of centimetres of snow before that clears and leaves us some icy conditions. But much further north, it's going to be northern Scotland that will continue to see snow falling for the first few days of the new year. By the end of Sunday, there could be maybe 50 centimetres of snow over some of the higher routes and some travel disruption. The showers further south are going to be replaced by drier weather and some sunshine. You can see the snow showers continue on Friday across the northern parts of Scotland in that cold Arctic wind. Temperatures are going to be lower on Friday, perhaps no better than 3 or 4 degrees, but there will be some sunshine outside of those showers. We've got the Arctic winds because high pressure is going to be to the west of the UK, low pressure to the east of the UK. That brings us a northerly wind, and it's northern Scotland that continues to be seeing those snow showers first of all, although there could be some running down some of these North Sea coasts where it's going to be particularly windy. The odd shower possible around some other western coastal areas, but for many inland parts, it's going to be dry, with a lot of sunshine after a widespread frost. You've got temperatures struggling to around 3 degrees quite typically. Not too much changes as we head into the second half of the weekend as well. There could be a slight change in the wind direction that brings a few more wintry showers towards Northern Ireland into West Wales, the far southwest of England, takes them away from the east coast of England. But again, it's northern Scotland that continues to see the snow piling up. Some continued disruption. It will feel cold. Again, another frosty start and afternoon temperatures 2-3 degrees. Still that cold air in place then as we head into Monday. This area of high pressure, maybe a little bit closer, will tend to turn things a bit drier across southern and western areas. And we may cut off briefly that really cold and strong Arctic wind as this weather system comes into the north and west of Scotland, bringing a mixture of rain, sleet and snow, although the details on that could change. Still cold, mind you. Further south, plenty of dry weather and sunshine. Temperatures 3-4 degrees. That cold air is still around then for the beginning of next week. And whilst there are weather fronts coming in from the Atlantic that try to bring in milder air, they just get steered more towards the southwest of the UK, allowing us to keep that colder northerly wind going into next week. The winds are not going to be quite as strong, but that cold air is still going to be in place, so there's still likely to be some frost around and may well be some snow. And with weather fronts further south, that could bring some snow into the south.
However, this is a very completely and utterly unknown situation, as of course yes, here is the monthly outlook. So yes, cold air has been straightforward, been in place so far, but there are some rumours that after at least from the 31st of December, obviously around New Year's Eve, around the 12th to, I think around the 12th of January, which will be on a Monday, there are some very interesting potentials that, yes, there are some hidden potentials that it might be milder, but then the uncertainty is that, the verdict is that we haven't got it very much. Yeah, it's not that very clear because obviously the uncertainty during January is very, very high because obviously, as always, as per usual, as I said before, once you go through past December, the winters here during January and February often seem to be well defined than it is December itself. This is actually very interesting and I wonder why. Okay, so might be potentially during January and February, but this is actually quite interesting. Oh, that's quite a very nice question here. How does winter weather affect birdsong? You know what's actually quite weird is that I've actually heard the singing sounds of wrens during December, because it has been a very mild December so far. And I've also heard sounds of song thrushes singing as well. So spring has came in relatively early. Too late, I suppose, because, you know, this cold air, without mentioning a particular Disney franchise, the word Frozen, has came along and wrecked everything up. Right, so yes, there's this awesome picture of a robin, perfectly seen on a Christmas card, and then there's a wren. Could that be perfectly suited for Easter? I don't know. But right, yes, obviously the pressure charts from Darren Bett, lovely forecast, but then you might actually never ever know of whether you're going to trust him or not. Is a very big question, because that big question mark is basically telling me, well, if I was watching that, well, it's not going to be that great. So we've got this. Okay, I shouldn't have never clicked on it, but what we do know is that there is some high pressure systems inhibiting right over. Of course, I don't need to look at the pressure charts, maybe until if I am done with this. Possible signs of sleet and snow across the UK. Look at the rain that's dumping through up towards next week. Very shabby. But anyways, here I stand. No, for no means, it's the pressure chart. So, we've got high pressure building up to the west. Now, looking at this is a very similar picture to what we've seen back in June in 1995. Now, notice that high pressure is actually straightforward sitting up towards Greenland and Iceland. And what it does is that it basically allows this low pressure system to dump up so much snow. Although I'd probably say no. Sorry, rhyming, hey? Ho ho ho! Sorry, I'm not being Santa Claus, but right. As you can see, all this cold air just suddenly tips down. Yeah, this low pressure system, it just swivels down all the way down towards the UK and parts of mainland Europe, continental Europe actually. Yeah, you can just see how it goes down the staircase, smashing Scandinavia, and also parts of, mainland continental Europe. Obviously, it's mainly Western Europe and not the Mediterranean, because there's already a mild low pressure system. And obviously, as I said before, the jet stream has already moved south. So the southerly the jet stream, the lower the jet stream, the more likely it's going to accumulate a lot more cold air. I think. I might be totally wrong on this. But as you can see, just look at this high pressure system that's within Greenland and Iceland. That's actually allowing much more colder air. Now, if this was during the summer, it would actually be very bad, because if you were hot summer, that was the sort of scenario you'll be completely disappointed with. So, we'll put it this way. It's a very rough and ready sort of anomaly that you're just seeing here, and a very rough and ready diagram as what you can see here. It's gone up nearly towards 9 o'clock, and I've just nearly spoken for about half an hour at this part of the video. So, Happy New Year's Eve if you're watching this video, or New Year's Day if you're watching somewhere else, somewhere other than the UK, obviously. It has gone up towards 9 o'clock. So, I better leave this video here before it gets completely out of control, because looking at meteorology is one of my favourite subjects, but meteorology is very treacherous and very difficult to really study, because there's a lot of weather patterns that you also got to really rely on, like, let's just say this cold snap that's been happening in America, and whatever. Anyways, I'm going to leave the video here. So, if you really enjoyed this rough and ready video, sorry it wasn't that properly explanatory, please give this video a very good like. Subscribe for more flat videos in the future, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and fans alike, and bye for now. Happy New Year!